Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here today. I'm Clarissa Rodriguez, Chair of the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Today's full board meeting is being webcast live for members of the public, so welcome. It is also facilitated by American Sign Language interpreters. Thank you, interpreters, for being here. Good morning, everyone. I now have the honor of calling the 1042nd Rodriguez Chair of the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Madam Secretary, today's full board meeting is being
Vice Chair
webcast
Foster?
live for members of the public.
Board
so
Member
welcome.
Higgins,
Here.
Board Member Loban,
Here.
Board Member Williams,
Here.
Board Member Hall,
Here.
Board Member Crane,
Here.
Board Member Tavares,
Here.
She's waiting.
Here.
Board Member Caginelli,
Here.
Board Member Delon,
Yeah.
Board Member Delgado,
Here.
and Board Member Perez.
Here.
Madam Chair, Board Member Stasko is absent today, and Board Members Hall and Tavares are joining us remotely.
Okay, thank you. Board members, may I please have a motion to accept the absence of Board Member Stasko?
Yes, Board Member Mark Higgins, I move to accept Mark Stasko's absence.
Thank you, Board Member Higgins. Is
Board
there a
Member Lauren Logan, the second motion.
Thank you for that second, Board Member Loban. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing no opposition, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed. Thank you, board members. Agenda item 1, approval of the March 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. Board members, you've all received the meeting minutes for your review. Are there any questions or need for a discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I please have a motion to accept the March 2025 board meeting minutes?
Board Member Sam Williams, I move to accept.
Thank you, Board Member Williams, for
This is
that.
Board Member Canginelli, and I second that motion.
Thank you for that second, Board Member Caginelli. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing no opposition, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. All opposed? Hearing no opposition again, that motion is passed. Thank you, board members. Agenda item 2, Office of General Counsel's Departmental Report. Acting General Counsel Keith Longden will now present the Office of General Counsel's Departmental Report for the month of March.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez, members of the board. Following is a statistical analysis for March of 2025 of the work done by the 3 divisions in the Office of General Counsel responsible for deciding cases. So in March of 2025, the Adjudication Division held 18,587 hearings and resolved 12,012 cases at hearing, and also issued 416 reserved decisions. During that period, they also held 1,538 pre-hearing conferences and finalized 2,203 waiver agreements, that is Section 32 waiver agreements. 1,856 of those were approved at hearings, and 347 were resolved by desk decision. The Administrative Review Division during that period received 1,091 applications, processed 962 applications, and had an end-of-month inventory of 8,319 pending applications. And finally, the Legal Affairs Division received 120 applications for full board review, processed 94 applications for an end-of-month inventory of 228 applications awaiting review. And that concludes my report. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Board members, are there any questions or need for a discussion? Hearing none, may I please have a motion to accept the Office of General Counsel's Departmental Report for the month of March?
Madam Chair, this is Board Member Canginelli, and I move that we accept the General Counsel's Department report.
Thank you, Board Member Caginelli. Is there a second?
Board Member Delgado, I second.
Thank you, Board Member Delgado, for that second. Is there any opposition? Okay, hearing none, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, all opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion is passed. Thank you, board members. Agenda item 3, license applications. Senior Attorney Benjamin Jacobs will now present the licensing applications for the month of March.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the boards and colleagues. You have before you the recommendations from the assigned board panel regarding the licensing application listed in Part 3 of today's agenda. Under Section 53B, Accel X LLC, QO William S. Jones Esquire, 1-year initial license. Under Section 53D, Davies Claims North America Incorporated, QO Matthew Mead Esquire, a 1-year initial license. And Lincoln Life and Annuity Company of New York Section, QO Sarah Sheldon Esquire, 1-year initial license. I present these recommendations to the board for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Board members, are there any questions or need for discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I please have a motion to accept the recommendations of the board panels as presented?
Yes, Board Member Stephen Crane, I move to adopt the recommendation of the board panel.
Board Member Lauren Lobin, and I second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Crane, and thank you, Board Member Lobin. Is there any opposition to the motion? Hearing no opposition, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Hearing none, I am also a yes, that motion is passed. Thank you. Agenda item 4, legal appeals. Keith Longden will now present the recommendations concerning decisions by the appellate division.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Since the previous board meeting, the Appellate Division, 3rd Department has issued 10 decisions on appeals for workers' compensation board decisions. 8 of those were affirmances, 2 were reversals. Those decisions can be found on items 4A through 4J of your agenda. It's a recommendation of the Office of General Counsel that all those items be adopted, all the decisions in items 4A through 4J be adopted as the decisions of the board.
Okay. Thank you, Keith. May I please have a motion to accept the recommendations of the Office of General Counsel?
Yes, Madam Chair. Board Member Sam Williams, I move to accept.
Thank you, Board Member Williams. May I please have a second?
Second the motion, Board Member Lauren Lobin.
Thank you, Board Member Lobin. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing no opposition, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Hearing none, I am also a yes, that motion is passed. Thank you, board members. Agenda item 5, mandatory full board review. We have case 5A, New York City Department of Transportation. Case number G36715544. Is there a motion with respect to 5A on the agenda?
Board Member Perez, I move that we affirm the majority opinion.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Perez. Is there a second?
Board Member Dewan, I second.
Thank you, Board Member Delan. Are there any recusals from this matter? Is there any opposition to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, there is opposition.
Thank you, Board Member Cajanelli, for that opposition. In light of the opposition, I call upon the Secretary for a roll call vote.
Board Member Cajanelli,
No.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member Delgado,
Yes.
Board Member Delan,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Lobin,
Yes.
Board Member Perez,
Yes.
Board Member Tavares,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
and Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion passes 11-1.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 6, discretionary full board review. I now turn this portion of the agenda over to Vice Chair Frida Foster. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the case listed on item 6 on your agenda, it's been recommended that full board review be granted, and that case is 6A, matter of Amazon.com DEDC LLC. I move to refer the case back to its respective panel for further consideration.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Foster. Is there a second?
Board Member Crane, second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Crane. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing no opposition, board members all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Okay, hearing none, that motion is passed. I am also a yes. Agenda item 7, any other business, board members? Hearing none, then we'll move on to our guest speaker this morning. We are joined by New York State Inspector General Lucy Lang and Attorney in Charge for Workers' Compensation Fraud, Brian Richmond. Thank you for being here today. We'll start with your intros, if you'll indulge me. New York State Inspector General Lucy Lang is an attorney, educator, and lifelong New Yorker. As New York State's 11th Inspector General, Lucy Lang brings her longstanding commitment to justice to overseeing the office's investigations into corruption, fraud, abuse, and misconduct in state government, as well as deep experience designing and implementing practices that promote institutional integrity, transparency, and accountability. Prior to her appointment, Lang served as director of the Institute for Innovation in Prosecution, a national criminal justice organization, and an assistant district attorney in Manhattan, where she investigated and prosecuted violent crimes. Inspector General Lang is a presidential leadership scholar and a graduate of Swarthmore College, Columbia Law School, and the Executive Public Leaders Program at the Blavatnik School of Government at the University of Oxford. Also joining us today is Attorney in Charge Brian Richmond. Brian Richmond serves as the Attorney in Charge for the Workers' Compensation Fraud at the offices of the New York State Inspector General under Inspector General Lucy Lang. In his role, he is dedicated to ensuring that the Inspector General's office is the leader in the fight against prevention of corruption, fraud, and abuse in the New York State workers' compensation system and state government. Mr. Richmond directs and supervises all workers' compensation fraud investigations conducted by the Inspector General throughout New York State and assists in the criminal prosecution of all aspects of suspected fraud in the New York State workers' compensation system. Mr. Richmond also participates in numerous other cooperative interagency anti-fraud initiatives throughout the state, coordinating efforts with multiple agencies and prosecutors on matters investigated both independently and cooperatively. Thank you both for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you
Morning.
so much, Chair Rodriguez, Vice Chair Foster, and members of the board for welcoming our team here yet again to in person present you with our annual report, which covers our 2024 activities. Particular thanks are also due to my outstanding team, including the folks who are here today, Attorney in Charge Richmond, and investigators Amy McMullen and Lisa Langenfelder. I'm so fortunate to be able to put my name on this report that they work so hard to bring to fruition every year. Our work in workers' compensation really bears out our office-wide mission. And as you all know, our office includes the Office of the Workers' Compensation Fraud Inspector General, the Welfare Inspector General, and also the New York State Inspector General, which oversees all the state executive agencies and authorities. And so there is quite a lot of intersection amongst those areas of responsibility. But the thing they most have in common is the way they're all informed by our mission, which is fostering confidence in New York State government by promoting integrity and transparency through oversight of covered agencies, their employees, and those doing business with the state. Many of you are aware that we take an interdisciplinary approach to all of our cases, including our workers' compensation fraud investigations. That includes bringing investigators, auditors, and attorneys, as well as forensic experts, and in the case of our workers' compensation portfolio, a nurse, to all of the cases that come before us so that we really can take a look that's informed by different disciplinary areas of expertise. We have offices throughout the state. Closest to here is our Albany office. We have a downstate office, a Western Region office, and several others. So we are able to conduct on-the-ground investigations all across New York. Our jurisdiction, as you know, in workers' compensation is a broad authority, and that is to investigate any violations of the laws and regulations pertaining to the workers' compensation system. And I thank all of you for your collaboration in that effort over the course of the past year and of course for many years prior. This year, we have received nearly 1,500 complaints, or rather last year, we received nearly 1,500 complaints. Every complaint that comes into our office goes through an expert review process that includes members of executive staff and attorney in charge Richmond. Last year, we uncovered nearly $3 million of workers' compensation fraud, and so there's no doubt that we're earning our keep. We were able to recoup upwards of $1.4 million in restitution fines and other court orders resulting from these investigations. And of course, some of those investigations are ongoing, have not yet concluded. But our efforts to recover monies lost to nefarious conduct are always underway. We've also really taken an approach to this work that we think of as putting the public into public integrity, with the idea that we are really only as good as the information that we get in. So of course, we are regularly scrutinizing documentary evidence, but we really rely on ordinary New Yorkers and on people who work in government, for employees and employers, to help us do our work to keep the system honest. So we doubled down in 2024 on doing outreach both in person, through the media, and even through social media in trying to drive the education that underlies the increasing numbers of complaints that we hope to see. I want to talk a little bit about an innovation in our work that we call the WCFIG Triage Unit. And I'm lucky to be joined by the remarkable members of that unit here. As mentioned, every complaint that comes into the office, whether it is WCFIG or a complaint related to some other area of state government, gets processed through our case review process. But we do have an internal group of experts in workers' compensation fraud. And that group takes every complaint that comes in related to workers' compensation, and they make a decision based on their review of the materials accompanying the complaint. So it is not simply a cursory review of the complaint, but actually a digging process, after which their decisions are made to refer to another agency or an insurance carrier, to be referred to that team itself, in which case they will undertake a comprehensive investigation. And then, as mentioned, every case that appropriately belongs in our office is then assigned to an interdisciplinary team who open a case and begin their holistic look at the allegations. I should have said that in addition to being outstanding, you don't have to take my word for it, that they're actually an award-winning team. The triage team was honored to receive the John J. Kennedy Award by the New York Anti-Car Theft and Fraud Association for their work triaging cases in 2024, and that was certainly a well-deserved honor. We spoke a bit last year about a report that our office put out about the prevalence of workers' compensation, fraud, and abuse in the State Department of Corrections. That has continued to be a challenge. We continue to see staffing in the Department of Corrections significantly impacted by really very high numbers, unusually high numbers of corrections officers who are availing themselves of workers' compensation. That is in part, as we found in our report, due to an extremely generous provision of their contract, which incentivizes folks to take workers' comp. And notwithstanding what you might expect about workers' compensation in docs, the vast majority of those claims are totally unrelated to contact with an incarcerated New Yorker, that they tend to be more run-of-the-mill workplace injuries, yet at much, much higher rates than what we see in other areas of the workplace. And so, notwithstanding the fact that the contract was renegotiated subsequent to our release of this report, that provision has remained intact. The concern has continued, and no doubt you're all aware of some of the challenges facing the Department of Corrections around staffing over the course of the past year. So we have really just continued our work in beating the drum about the challenges posed by this and the real world implications that they have for corrections officers who are forced to work double or sometimes triple shifts to cover for colleagues who may be out availing themselves of workers' comp, and also the real world impact on incarcerated New Yorkers who have experienced cutbacks and limitations to programming and education and recreation in response to these challenges. So we've continued the conversations with the various relevant folks. I wrote an op-ed about it this past year, and we are hopeful that this issue will get the attention that it warrants and that change will be made. So that brings me to the end of my introductory remarks, and I'm really pleased to turn it over to the true expert in the field. We're very lucky to have Brian Richmond at the helm here, but before I turn it to him, I will officially hand over our workers' comp report to Chair Rodriguez with my thanks for receiving us. Brian.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, enjoy it.
Thank you. So I wanted to delve in a little bit deeper into some of the numbers, and more importantly, the numbers, put some actual cases. So I get the, somewhat of an interesting part here. As many of you know, we kind of put our cases into three general buckets, and we have jurisdiction over all of them, of course. So we have employer fraud, and employer fraud generally constitutes either failing to provide comp insurance as an employer for their employees, or premium fraud, premium evasion, that kind of thing. There's the claimant fraud, which could run the gambit from passing off non-work injuries as work injuries, working while collecting and claiming that you're not working, cashing deceased relatives' checks. It can run the gambit, right? And then our it's a little bit of a catch-all, but our provider professional fraud. We used to call this our physician fraud, but it has expanded over the years to include more than just physicians. The physicians are billing for services not provided, double billing, those kinds of things. It's usually centered around billing issues. But we've had, in recent times in Western New York, stenographer adding zeros to their bills that they send out to insurers. And actually, our most significant case this year is a case of professional fraud, which we'll talk about again in a minute. Our provider professional fraud tend to be longer term investigations, much more intricate and fewer. Last year, we had about half and half employer fraud and claimant fraud. This year, we had more, about twice as much claimant fraud cases, at least arrests related to claimant fraud cases than employer fraud cases. So fraud by claimants, in regard to what the Inspector General was talking about, we did issue a report in 2023 in regard to correctional officers and the contract that they received for workers' comp benefits under NYSCOBA. The 2023 report noted extensive contractual workers' comp benefits through NYSCOBA and a statistical overrepresentation of non-inmate related claims. And it provided both an incentive for and really an indication of abuse of those benefits. And despite that strong indication, those cases remain difficult to prosecute. And despite those difficulties, this year of our claimant cases, 3 of the arrests and convictions and prosecutions were correctional officers in New York State. One of which was a correctional officer assigned to the Wendy Correctional Facility in Western New York. This claim actually originally came in as a potential false note case, false physician note case, with some indication that that correctional officer may be working as well. What our investigation found, and we partnered with the Social Security Administration Inspector General, was that this correctional officer was actually working full-time as a bus operator with routes between New York and Buffalo while out on comp, and also simultaneously receiving Social Security disability benefits. Ultimately, that officer pled guilty. They were charged with and pled guilty to insurance fraud and grand larceny. They paid restitution to the New York State Insurance Fund and also to the Social Security Administration in the amount of about $50,000. In regard to fraud by employers, we receive a lot of cases involving falsified insurance documentation and or false CE200s, the use of false CE200s. And CE200s, for those of you who don't know, CE200s are exemption certificates that you can get from the board saying that you're exempt from the requirement to carry workers' compensation insurance because you don't have any employees or only owners working for the business. These certificates are most often used in order to secure permits for contractors or to secure bids either with the state or with private entities. We get a lot of these cases. The highest exposure of those cases, though, are where an employee actually gets injured on the job while that employer does not carry workers' compensation insurance. And that exposure happens, as I think all of you know, that employee is covered under the Uninsured Employers Fund, but there is still tremendous exposure all the way around. And in this case, we had a Saratoga-based paving company where the owner was operating a business without comp insurance. It discovered one of the employees had an on-the-site injury to his hand. That's how the case came in. It was actually through a board Section 50 finding. We review on a monthly basis all workers' compensation board Section 50 findings by law judges, and that's how that case came in. The owner ultimately pled guilty just in March of this year, so it didn't. I don't know if it made the report, but the owner just pled guilty last month to workers' comp Section 52 and paid a restitution to the state's Uninsured Employers Fund, which is one of the two ways that the fund maintains its funding. And our largest case of the year, both in scope, in time, in value, in a lot of ways, was a case called MedLink Services. And this was a unique case to us. We often get doctors and other professionals, and this is why we've expanded the category really as a catch-all. There are medical billers it's especially used for surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, but really any busy practice can use medical billers. And often these medical billers can bill one of two ways. They either bill on a flat fee, per month basis, or they could bill as a percentage of your practice, or percentage of volume, or percentage of billing. And they essentially take a doctor's notes, puts them in the proper format, files the proper forms with the various insurance companies, sends out those bills, and so that the physicians get paid. Here, there was a medical biller based out of, or it was an orthopedic surgeon based out of Brooklyn, and the orthopedic surgeon paid a flat fee for his services. But he made a little bit of extra money because for every few bills, he would say, pay the doctor, pay the doctor, pay the doctor, pay me, pay the doctor, pay the doctor, pay me, to the tune of approximately $1.9 million across 13 insurers over a 7-year period of time. 1.3 million alone of that $1.9 million was from NYSIF, which is, of course, the largest underwriter of workers' comp policies in the state. This was a joint WCFIG investigation with the State Insurance Fund, and we partnered heavily with the Attorney General's office over the course of several years, who arrested, prosecuted the case this year, and ultimately the biller was charged with 27 felonies, including grand larceny, insurance fraud, workers' comp fraud, falsifying business records, scheme to defraud, and they pled guilty to insurance fraud. There was approximately $1.3 million in restitution paid, $300,000 from the case itself, and another $1 million from a companion federal civil suit that was filed in conjunction with this case. But it was a fairly unique scheme that we have not seen since we've been here and want to certainly pay attention to in the future. Outreach and training, as the Inspector General noted, there has been a particular emphasis since Inspector General Lang took office in regard to our public notability throughout the state. So I've gone all throughout the state, New York City, Oswego, Long Island, Utica, Albany, with my staff, and we have talked about fraud prevention, red flags, when to give the case to us. Please give the case to us so that we can, alert, take a look at it. One particular thing that we have done this year that we haven't done in the past was we had outreach to a large underwriter, a particular large underwriter, but a private insurer out in Utica this year. And while we usually reach in many of the other organizations, special investigations unit of insurance companies and also claim reps, what we were able to reach at that insurance company presentation that we made were underwriters as well. And we usually do not have an outreach to underwriters. And the underwriters really are the boots on the ground, especially with regards to employer fraud. So we're hoping to continue that trend into 2025. And we also partnered with the board this year at a presentation. We've done that in the past. We hope to continue those partnerships in the future. Really, in conclusion, we do want to note that, my contact information is there. Please contact me for any questions, but particularly contact me if there's any training, presentations, public events, private or public, anything that any of you have that could touch upon workers' compensation fraud. You might have a need, or we can get out and be as observable as the Inspector General wants us to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for that presentation and all of the great work that you're doing on behalf of the workers' compensation system. I really appreciate it. Okay, board members, without further ado, may I have a motion to adjourn this morning's meeting?
Board Member Delgado, I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Board Member Delgado. Is there a second?
Board Member Cantinelli, I second that motion.
Thank you, Board Member Caginelli. Is there any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, board members, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, I am also a yes. That motion is passed. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.